all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look.
Welcome, North Texas, to JMS podcast. Having a lot of fun with these podcasts, just sharing my opinions, advice, or just talking about topics. So thank you for tuning in. If anybody ever wants to come in here, a coach, this platform is for you also. If you want to debate any of the previous topics, we could do that. Today's topic is going to be the sacrifices from a parent point of view to play select soccer, the journey for players that make national team. As a coach and as a parent of three, it takes a lot of time, a lot of sacrifices. So specifically, I want to talk about the ups, the lows, the setback, the time commitment, everything from a parent point of view. Later, I want to bring in players that made the national team and get their point of view and their advice, because I know as parents, you see all the good stuff but you might not see all the sacrifices, and that's what I wanted to share. So in today's podcast, I want to share just my experience from a parent with my daughter Jade Martinez, from her initial call up to Mexico and her journey, and what we experienced as parents. Because I always tell parents all the time, when they get called up, it takes a lot of commitment, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifices. And so, again, wanted to share my experience. So Jade is a senior. She's committed to Baylor this year. So about when she was 12, 13 years old, she got called up to the U15 Mexico national team. And I remember getting that notice and the excitement of your kid representing your country that you were born in. And for me, it was just unreal. But it started with getting her dual citizenship. So when we went to get her dual citizenship, long lines, so much paperwork you have to do. But it seemed like we were there 4 or 5 hours, but it seemed really like 30 minutes because just of our excitement to finally see that she's a dual citizen. Was excited. And then she gets her ticket. And the first time that she got invited, I went with her and her teammate to drop her off. I felt like, hey, I have some important players and I want to make sure that they get taken care of. So I flew to the airport. As soon as I saw the gentleman that was receiving them, I went to him. He checked Jade and Chado off, and we waited. I have no idea what was going to happen next, so we waited, and more players started showing up. More players, before you know it, you had about 15, 16, 17 players, staff, parents, all waiting at the airport. Then the head coach at that time, she's currently the U20 head coach, comes up. I didn't know she was the head coach. She basically said, hey, parents, it's time to go. We're going to take the players, so it's time to say goodbye. So they took them off. And so now we have no contact with them. And that night was very stressful because they put 2 players to each room, 1 player for each bed. So that night, Jade is calling, and her teammate that was coming from Tijuana or somewhere, her flight got delayed, so she wasn't going to come until the next day. So Jade's 12 years old in Mexico, staying by herself, nervous. She calls her mom. Tiffany calls me, hey, can you see if she could go to Chado's room and sleep with her? I contact the person. They're like, no, they can't. They can't have 2 girls on the same bed. It's 1 player per bed. But she's fine. We know, doors are going to be locked. So they stayed at a hotel the first time. I think the older women were at GAR and training. So they stayed at a hotel because they were U15s just for that one trip. So I remember Tiffany's like, are you seriously going to let her stay in Mexico? You know, she's in a country, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? I have no idea where she's at. So I called Jade. I said, Jade, if you're nervous and don't want to stay, I'll tell them, give me the address. I'll tell my cousins to take me and I'll pick you up. So they probably will get upset, but hey, if that's what you want. Jade said, Dad, I'm good. I'm good. So she said, my phone's going low on battery, so I just need a charger for tomorrow. I have enough juice for tonight. And he goes, so Tiffany was like, I can't believe you're letting her stay. I can't believe. So having that conversation, I understand mom's worried. I'm worried. I couldn't sleep that night. So as soon as I woke up, I text her. She goes, yes, Dad, I'm fine. We're just getting ready to go have breakfast. So I said, okay, I got the address to the hotel so I could take her a charger. I told my cousin. We took her the charger, left it in their hotel. It was guarded. There was a security man up front. He checked the vehicle. He told us, you know, what room we're in. We're like, we're just dropping a hotel. He goes, okay, park here, go in, drop the charger and come back. So that was the first time. So after that, Jade felt comfortable. The second, third, fourth time that she went, she wanted to go by herself. Her and Carmen said, we got it. So they went by themselves. You have to pay, believe $100 for a minor, where you have to fill out a form, and one person up there with ID has to receive them. And then coming back, the only person that checks them in has to receive them. So we did that. We felt comfortable, and she went. But during that time, I remember Dallas Girls International Cup, the first event. So she comes to Dallas. We're all excited, the family, and she's missing school. In fact, she was going to DISD school, and she missed her STAR testing. So she didn't even do her STAR testing for this 3-week camp. So she didn't even take it. We ended up transferred to private school after, but she never took the STAR testing during that time because of the sacrifice of going on the Mexico national team. So she comes to Dallas Girls International Cup, and we're all excited. First game, she starts, plays the first half, but right before half, she gets frogged on her thigh, and she's limping. She can't go back in. So the game ends. We're like, okay, how are you doing? She said, it's bad, it's bad. Second game, she doesn't play. They're like, no, we're going to sit her out. Third game, she plays in the second half. They put her in for about 20 minutes, and I feel like she did fine. But then they got to the quarters, the semis, the finals, and she doesn't play. My family's there. We're all there. And the one thing with my family, it's always be positive, be positive. I tell my wife, I tell my kids, be positive. It's about the team. So for us, we were all excited. But seeing that our daughter didn't play, it's human. We're disappointed, but we stay positive. So the tournament ends. They take her. I asked the coach if we could take her after the tournament. They're like, no, they'll get dismissed next day after 12. They're going to take them to the mall, let them shop around. They gave them some money. And then the next day I picked her up. And then I basically told Jade, I said, it was a great experience. It's great. You got that experience, the nutrition, what it takes to play at that level. And I told Jade, if they don't ever invite you again, that's you can't worry about that. You just got to worry about what you can control. So sure enough, the next camp, they didn't invite Jade, and they invited Chado. And Jade was, heartbroken. I was like, Jade, I'm glad that you're heartbroken, but that's out of our control. What's in your control is you just focusing on getting better. And so she did that. So then the third camp, they invited her to our surprise. And when I have a video when Joshua showed her the letter, Josh was crying, Jade's crying, she's all excited. And then from that point on, Jade was pretty much for the next 3-4 years invited to all the camps. But during that time, she missed a lot of days at school. She missed a lot of birthday parties. Her own birthday party, I think she missed twice. So she was always sacrificing, whether it was her friends' 15s and graduations, weddings, whatever it was like Mexico was always calling just about, it seemed like every month or every other month. So that was a huge sacrifice. There's one time during COVID, she always has to get the test before. So we out and coming back. And one time she got COVID there. So she had to stay at a hotel. So I flew in so she wouldn't be at the hotel alone. Her and her teammate had COVID, but her teammate had COVID earlier. So when she left, I went to stay with Jade at the hotel. So then when Jade tested negative, I tested to come back and I'm positive. So then I'm stuck out there 4 or 5 days. And Jade's like, I'm sorry for getting you infected, positive. I was like, no, you're fine. But those are some sacrifices. There was another time where the night before she was leaving, we were looking for her passport and she couldn't find her USA passport. So you have your flight, you're going. And I'm like, okay, you go into Mexico with your Mexico passport. You can't come back without it. So I said, let's just send her and I'll go to the consulate and I'll give her an emergency passport to come back. So she went to the camp. So I flew into Mexico at the end, picked her up on a Sunday from the camp, Monday going to the consulate, all day long lines, getting this form, that form. It was just, you spend so much time in those lines and getting out and you're needing Tiffany's signature, my wife's signature on this document. But those are the sacrifices that as parents we make, and then not worrying about, is she getting called up for this camp? Is she getting called up? We always said to Tiffany, it's like Mexico gave her an opportunity. We're always going to be blessed and grateful for that opportunity. And then after that, it's God's plan. And I think that understanding, it's like we don't try to worry about the things that we can't control. There's a lot of sacrifices, emotional, because it is super competitive. I remember the year of the World Cup. I remember Jade was training and playing and missing a lot of high school, prior to the World Cup. They were going to Czech Republic, Spain. They were taking these trips to prepare. And I remember she was missing a lot of school at Parrish. And Parrish is a private school. The curriculum is very tough. And she was doing great her freshman year. Her sophomore year, she started missing a lot of school. And she was turning in her work online. And I remember that the counselor said, so what's Jade's future with soccer? How many more tournaments? So I explained to them, we really don't know. It was because she might not get called up. So the pre-qualifier was at Dominican Republic, and we're like, we don't know if she's gonna get called up. And he goes, then after that, it's the World Cup's in India, and we don't know if she's gonna get called up for that. So we really don't know. Like, it's just as you go. And the counselor said, well, I think it's gonna be hard for her to manage parish school and then the national team. They recommended that we do online. I agreed because it was going to be very stressful on Jade. So now we're in November, December, and we decided to enroll her to Texas Tech K through 12 for online to give her that flexibility. So she's at a camp. She comes back about Christmas, New Year. We enroll her in Texas Tech K through 12. Everything's good, except when Texas Tech K through 12 called me and said, we have a problem. He goes, she's good, she's enrolled, but we don't accept trimesters. Parrish works on a trimester. Texas Tech K through 12 works on semester. He goes, since she was in the middle of her second trimester, she has to start all over like if she's starting her sophomore year. So we're like, it is what it is. So with all the travel, by the time Jay got through the World Cup and the pre-qualifier, she was really just finishing her sophomore year while her brother and everybody else was starting her junior year. So today, Jade's doing work. She's caught up now. He goes, but it's a big sacrifice, her starting all over again. So again, those kind of setbacks, you're going to have to make those. And then it becomes injuries. Injuries are part of the game. We went to playoffs with the ECNL team, Jade's team. and she got a call up to go to Italy. So she went to Italy, and I'm at the playoffs with the teams, and I'm watching her games play, and she plays the entire first game, and I thought she did pretty good. And then the second game, she plays the first half. She's jogging off. We're thinking, okay, they don't put her the second half. And we're like, okay, that's good. She calls me that night. She's like, Dad, my knee was throbbing. All of a sudden, she couldn't sleep. Next day, she said it got swollen. So we're thinking like the worst, like what happened? And even the staff was like, we're going back on the video and we don't see anything. We don't see anything that she heard it. She jogged off. We're like, man, what happened? What happened? So we're actually in Seattle, my wife and I, and she's in Italy, and we're communicating, and they're thinking about taking her back to Mexico to do an MRI. They keep her there, and then she's flying, and she said the altitude of the plane was hurting her knees. She hadn't had stretched the entire time. They land, they do the MRI, and they call us, and they said grade 2 ligament strains. They're like 8 weeks. She's going to be out 8 weeks. So this was in late June, because playoffs is the last week of June. So we're like, okay, the World Cup is coming up in October. So they're like 8 weeks. You have to do this physical therapy in the pool. Don't rush it. So we actually get another MRI here in the States just to be sure. And we go to a trainer, and so she starts doing the rehab, and she starts coming back. And so 8 weeks, the day before she was going to go to a camp that they had in Mexico in a tournament in Leon, she actually starts pushing herself, and she sprints, she plants, and it hurts, and she's limping. We stop at QT, put ice. The next day, I'm like, man, do I send her? And Jay doesn't open up. And so Jade's like, I'm ready. So we go, and I'm actually looking to see if is she limping? And she wasn't. I call her after the first day. I said, how'd you do? She goes, Dad, I'm fine. Don't worry about my knee. Don't worry. Jay doesn't like talking about anything, like opening up about injuries or feelings, how she feels. So I said, okay, just let her go. So we're in Mexico, watch her play. And for me, then going to the World Cup, then she comes back from the World Cup, and she starts complaining about her lower back, her hip. So now we start going into ECNL Showcase. Goes in January, we go to Florida. She plays 30 minutes, and she's limping. She's like, my hip. We send her to the trainer. Our strength and conditioning trainer, Juan Robles, says, hey, I don't think she should go. So we shut her down. So we're in Florida, we come back. High school season starts for everybody. Jade doesn't do high school season, so we're like, okay, we got to start training. She was like, I feel good. We go sign her up to a Baylor ID camp just so she could get to work and so she could work with her future coaches, with Michelle and Leah. And so Jade, first part of the day, fine. Second part, she can't go anymore. In the field, you could see that she's limping. We get off. She was like, Dad, I don't know what's wrong. And he goes, my lower back, my hip. And it's after time, after like maybe a couple of sprints, 30 minutes, an hour, And so we shut her down, and I take her to a specialist. As soon as we get there, specialist starts, okay, what's happening? My lower back, my hip. He's like, did you have a knee injury? He goes, yeah. He goes, okay, explain that to me. And she explained everything about when she hurt it in Italy. And he goes, you're overcompensating. He goes, these muscles are connected. Now they're not firing. So you're putting too much strain on this. He goes, give me 6 weeks. He goes, so 6 weeks, she's doing the needle, and she's doing all the exercises. And it was exactly that, because after that was maybe February, March, April. She hasn't had any pain since then. So one of the things I tell you parents, if you have a high ankle sprain, any lingering injury, take care of it. Take care of it, because it's going to lead to more and more and more. But those are kind of like from a parent, it could have been COVID and you miss out on the World Cup injury, you miss out on a pre-qualifier. All these things happen. They're part of it. but one of the things that's worth the risk if your kid wants it. For us, it was the greatest time, great memory. The friendships that we made with families that we met through this journey. Jade, she has long life friends. I think the group is called Baby Girls. So they're not doing great things at USC and UCLA and traveling and just seeing some of these players now that are even young going to play in the World Cup that Jade had a chance to play against and see them. It's kind of like, man, it's really a reminder of God's plan for me. So for me, I know parents, you sacrifice a lot. Just be prepared to be positive. And I would just say the journey's worth it. Thank you. Thank you for listening to JMS again. He goes, where we don't sugarcoat it, we just speak the truth.